Every single year, between 80,000 and 140,000 people lose their lives to snake bites. And yet, out of nearly 4,000 snake species on Earth, only around 600 are venomous. That tells us something important. A very small percentage of snakes are responsible for the overwhelming majority of fatalities. And depending on where you live, your risk can change dramatically. Today, we're traveling across the globe to rank the continents by their deadliest snakes. There are different ways you could judge this. You could rank snakes purely by venom potency, but that wouldn't paint the full picture. Some of the most venomous snakes on Earth are shy, reclusive, and almost never bite humans. So instead, we're ranking them by the number of human lives they actually claim. Of course, this isn't a perfect science. Population density, access to anti-venom, and quality of healthcare massively influence these numbers. But it does give us a clearer idea of which snakes are the most defensive and most likely to deliver a fatal bite. So let's begin. First stop, Antarctica. Number 7. There are no native snakes on Antarctica at all. Even if an incredibly hardy species could survive the freezing temperatures, it would need a highly specialized diet. It's maybe a giant penguin-eating python, or an egg specialist targeting seabird nests. But no snake on Earth is built for this brutal frozen continent, which makes Antarctica the safest continent when it comes to snakes. Next, we head north to Europe. Across the entire continent, there are fewer than 100 snake species. Only 17 of them are venomous. In some northern countries, there are just 3 native snake species total, and only one of them carries venom. The European adder is widespread across Eurasia, and often the only venomous snake in its ecosystem. If bitten, medical attention is recommended. Alright, let's dive into the world of snakes, starting with Oceania. While many islands here, like New Zealand, are completely snake-free, their neighbor Australia tells a very different story. But here's a surprise. Despite having some of the world's most venomous snakes, Australia has about the same number of annual snakebite fatalities as the United States. This is almost entirely due to their excellent access to anti-venom. I take the Inland Taipan, for example. It's often called the most venomous snake on the planet. Its bite can be fatal in less than 30 minutes. Yet incredibly, there has never been a single recorded human death from an Inland Taipan. Why? Because it's incredibly shy and goes out of its way to avoid people. The real danger in Australia comes from the eastern brown snake. It's highly defensive, quick to strike, and often found near human settlements. This combination makes it responsible for the majority of snake-related deaths in Australia in recent years. But the true crisis in Oceania isn't in Australia. It's in New Guinea. The Papuan taipan, a relative of the coastal taipan, is even more defensive and commonly lives in populated areas. With limited access to medical care and many people walking barefoot, this snake is responsible for around 1,000 deaths every single year. Add in the aggressive beaked sea snake, which causes most of the world's sea snake fatalities, and Oceania lands firmly in third place on our list. Next up, we journey to Africa, a continent famous for its iconic predators. And its snakes are no exception. You've got the striking and deadly Cape Cobra and the Gaboon Viper, which boasts the longest fangs of any snake, up to 2 inches long, but is thankfully quite docile. And of course, there's the Black Mamba, legendary for its incredible speed and potent venom. However, the snakes that cause the most devastation here are often less famous. It's the real killers are the puff adder and the West African carpet viper. Puff adders are masters of camouflage. They rely on ambush tactics, which means they're tragically easy to step on by accident. The West African carpet viper is highly defensive and extremely common in farming regions. It's believed to cause thousands of deaths annually, because anti-venom is so hard to come by in many rural areas. Africa takes the grim second-place spot on our countdown. And finally, we arrive in Asia, the continent that experiences the highest number of snake-related deaths in the entire world. To put it in perspective, nearly half of all global snake fatalities happen in India alone. That's about 58,000 people every year. While a massive population and limited healthcare access are big factors, the sheer diversity of deadly snakes plays a huge role. You might think of the king cobra, the largest venomous snake on Earth, but it mostly preys on other snakes and is responsible for relatively few human deaths. The real tragedy in India comes from a group known as the Big Four. These are the common kite, the Indian cobra, the Russell's viper, and the saw-scaled viper. Together, they are responsible for the vast majority of fatalities across the subcontinent. Among them, one stands out. The Russell's viper alone accounts for roughly 43% of all snakebite deaths in India. That's an estimated 20,000 to 25,000 lives lost every single year. It's drawn to agricultural areas where it finds plenty of rodents, putting it in constant contact with people. Known for its defensive nature and for delivering a massive dose of venom in a single bite. The Russell's viper is, in terms of sheer human impact, arguably the deadliest snake in the world. Thanks for watching. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the natural world. Welcome back. In our last video, we covered the Americas. Today, we're journeying across the globe to Oceania, Africa, and Asia to find the deadliest continents for snakebites. Let's start with Oceania. Many islands here, like New Zealand, are completely snake-free. But Australia, as you probably know, is a whole different story. What might surprise you is that Australia has a similar number of annual snake fatalities as the United States. This isn't because their snakes are less dangerous, but because access to antivenom is excellent. You've probably heard of the Inland Taipan, often called the most venomous snake in the world. Its venom is so potent it can be fatal in under 30 minutes. Yet, there has never been a single recorded human death from an Inland Taipan bite. They're incredibly shy and live in remote areas, so they rarely encounter people. The snake you really need to worry about in Australia is the eastern brown snake. It's highly defensive, and its habitat often overlaps with human populations. This combination makes it responsible for most snake-related deaths in Australia in recent years. However, the real crisis in Oceania isn't in Australia. It's in New Guinea. The Papuan taipan, a relative of the coastal taipan, is more defensive and commonly found in populated areas. Compounding the problem is limited access to medical care and the fact that many people walk barefoot. This leads to a tragic fatality rate of around 1,000 people every year. When you also consider the aggressive beaked sea snake, which causes most sea snake fatalities worldwide, Oceania lands itself in third place. Next up, let's head to Africa. A continent famous for its iconic predators, and its snakes are no exception. We've got the stunning and lethal Cape Cobra and the Gaboon viper, which boasts the longest fangs of any snake up to a terrifying 5.1 centimeters, though it's usually quite docile. And of course, there's the Black Mamba, legendary for its incredible speed, defensive nature, and powerful venom. But despite these famous names, the biggest killers are two other species, the puff adder and the West African carpet viper. Puff adders are masters of camouflage, so they rely on ambush tactics, lying perfectly still, which makes them dangerously easy to step on. The West African carpet viper is highly defensive and very common in farming regions. It's believed to cause thousands of deaths every single year. A major factor here is the limited access to antivenom, especially in rural areas. For these reasons, Africa takes a sobering second place on our list. Finally, we arrive in Asia, the continent with the highest number of snake-related deaths in the world. It's a staggering statistic, but nearly half of all global snake fatalities occur in India alone. That's around 58,000 deaths per year. A massive population and challenges in healthcare access are part of the story. But the sheer diversity of deadly snake species is a huge factor. You might think of the king cobra, the largest venomous snake on Earth. While formidable, it primarily hunts other snakes and is responsible for relatively few human deaths. The real threat comes from a group known as India's Big Four: the common kite, the Indian cobra, the Russell's viper, the saw-scaled viper. Together, these four species are responsible for the vast majority of fatalities on the subcontinent. Among them, one stands out. The Russell's viper alone accounts for roughly 43% of all snakebite deaths in India. That's an estimated 20,000 to 25,000 lives lost every year. These snakes are often drawn to agricultural areas where they find plenty of rodents, putting them in direct conflict with people. They're known for their irritability and for delivering a large, devastating dose of venom in a single bite. In terms of sheer human impact, the Russell's viper is arguably the deadliest snake in the world. And so, with a heartbreaking number of annual fatalities, Asia is, without a doubt, the most dangerous continent when it comes to deadly snakes. It's a critical public health issue that deserves global attention. Thanks for watching, and if you found this informative, be sure to like and subscribe for more. See you next time. But even within Asia, the danger isn't evenly spread. While India accounts for a massive portion of global fatalities, countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and Myanmar also experience extremely high numbers of snakebite deaths every single year. Rural farming communities are the most vulnerable, working barefoot in rice fields, harvesting crops at night, or sleeping on the ground dramatically increases the risk of an accidental encounter. Remember, most snakebites are defensive, not aggressive. Snakes don't hunt humans. They don't chase people for food. In nearly every case, a bite happens because the snake feels threatened. It's stepped on, cornered, or handled. That's an important distinction, because when we talk about deadly snakes, we're really talking about a combination of three factors: venom potency, defensive behavior, and proximity to humans. Take the Inland Taipan again. In terms of raw venom toxicity, it's one of the most powerful snakes on Earth. But because it lives in remote, arid regions with very low human population, fatalities are virtually non-existent. Now compare that to Russell's viper. Its venom is slightly less potent, but it lives right alongside millions of people. It thrives in farmland. It's highly defensive, and it delivers large venom doses. That's why impact matters more than toxicity alone. The same pattern appears in Africa with carpet vipers, in the Americas with furulence, and in Oceania with the Papuan taipan. So real danger isn't always the snake with the strongest venom. It's a snake you're most likely to accidentally step on. Another major factor is access to anti-venom. In countries with strong healthcare systems, survival rates are dramatically higher. In rural areas without immediate treatment, even moderately venomous species can become deadly. Globally, snakebite envenomation is considered a neglected tropical disease. Millions are bitten every year. Hundreds of thousands suffer permanent injuries, amputations, tissue necrosis, organ damage, even if they survive. So while ranking continents is interesting, it also highlights a serious global health issue. And here's something else worth mentioning. Many snake species are actually declining due to habitat destruction, road mortality, and human persecution. In Europe, adders are disappearing in parts of their range. In other regions, snakes are killed on sight out of fear. But snakes play a critical ecological role. They control rodent populations. They help maintain balance in agricultural systems. Some species even reduce the spread of disease by limiting pest numbers. Without snakes, ecosystems would shift dramatically, and not in our favor. So maybe the takeaway isn't just which continent has the deadliest snakes. Maybe it's understanding them better, because fear often comes from misunderstanding. Snakes aren't evil, they aren't malicious. They're animals built for survival in environments that sometimes overlap with ours. And when that overlap happens, especially in areas without medical infrastructure, tragedy can follow. But education changes that. Awareness reduces risk, and respect goes a long way. If you enjoyed this deep dive ranking the world's deadliest snake continents, let me know which region surprised you the most. And if there's another animal group you want ranked next, spiders, sharks, big cats, drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.